We'll see what our opponent's doing. Sleight of Hand is usually not a card that's played in very, reactive decks, like control decks, for example, so Lotus Field. Okay, that explains a lot. Alright, guys, we have one more match to play through, and we are playing this list that you see on screen. If you're not familiar with the new cards, check out match 1. I talk about the new cards and their inclusions and the details of this list in that video. I will not be covering that here. And yeah, we are currently 3-1, so hoping to get this 4-1. If we go 3-2, that's fine with me as well. We're here for the learning and the experience, and so far, I have to say I'm really liking Urza Saga, but I will save some of that for the end of this match, where we can talk about it more in depth there. So let's just go ahead and cut all the talk. I will see you guys in the games. Alrighty, let's hop in here for the match. On the draw, we got a turn 1 Amulet hand. We got Castle for a little bit of speed. We can play a turn 2 3-drop if we draw it. We have a natural Radiant Fountain depending on the matchup. Our opponent's mulligan to 6. I think this is a worthy keep. They lead on Shocked Steam Vents. Sleight of Hand. Interesting. Could this be Storm? Not sure what Steven's decks would be playing Sleight of Hand. There's our 3-drop, which is fantastic news. Let's get this Amulet right into play. Pass it back. At least we know that our opponent is most certainly not on a Cascade deck, because Sleight of Hand wouldn't make sense in a Cascade deck. A Watery Grave. Interesting. And Sleight of Hand. Okay. Could this be a blue-black based inverted deck? I don't really know what's going on. Regardless, we will play out our lands here, and because we have Vesuva to copy the Growth Chamber, we're just going to leave the Growth Chamber in play to make a land drop progress here. Here goes the Dryad, and we play the Garenbrig here, because even if they kill our Dryad, we can still play Vesuva copying this, activate the Garenbrig, and be able to slam Titan, so we'll see what our opponent's doing. Sleight of Hand is usually not a card that's played in very, reactive decks, like control decks, for example, so Lotus Field. Okay, that explains a lot. So our opponent's on Lotus Field. We might be dead this turn. One of the detriments to being on the draw rather than the play. I mean, clearly we have to let our opponent do their thing, but the idea is Lotus Field is a land that taps for 3 mana of any one color, so if they keep using things like Twiddle to tap or untap, in this case untap, their land, then they can continue to produce a lot of mana and kind of storm combo off here, playing a bunch of spells, continuously untapping their Lotus Field, things along those lines. They have things like Dream's Grip, which is an instant that lets them untap target permanent, and they can use that in combination with Twiddle and some blue look through their deck to find the right cards type effects to just keep going. They have Psychic Puppetry, which is one that they can splice onto an arcane, and that'll let them untap their field every time they splice this onto an arcane spell, such as Ideas Unbound or Peer Through Depths. So the fact that they have the puppetry here means we're probably just straight up dead. Of course, I'm going to let them do it, but Past in Flames. Yeah, we're definitely dead here. I'm just going to scoop it up. They're probably going to finish it off with a Grape Shot or something. So let's just go to the next game. I'm not interested in wasting my time. Grafdigger's Cage is only good against Past in Flames, and I don't think that is necessarily good enough. Sadly, Pithy Needle is, unless they're mana abilities, and everything that Lotus Field is doing is a mana ability, so Pithy Needle doesn't do much here. I wonder if Pithy Needle stops Splice onto Arcane. I'm going to go look that up real quick. So from what I'm seeing, it looks like Splice is a static ability, and Pithy Needle only affects activated abilities. So yeah, I think that Pithy Needle doesn't do anything against Splice either, which is quite sad. Do we want Pact of Negation for this matchup? I don't really see it. Ghost Quarter doesn't do anything because Lotus Field is hexproof, so Bajuka Bog is probably irrelevant. Honestly, I don't think we want any of these cards. Maybe Beast Within to hit one of their non-Lotus Field lands to keep them a turn off of the combo. I could see that. We can trim a Turn Timber, I suppose. And, an Explore, I guess. Unfortunately, it's just neither of these hate cards actually hates on our opponent's plan at all, so... Alright, well, we'll just run it through. We get to be on the draw for game 3 if we even get there, so that's not a great sign, but we get a turn 1 Grazer into Saga. We have Beast Within to try to slow them down a little bit, so I think we are supposed to keep this. Interestingly enough, if we want to cast Beast Within on our turn 2, then we're going to need to Grazer in a non-Saga land here, like Vesuva, copying the Breeding Pool or something. I don't think it's that super imperative that we Beast Within on turn 2, though. I think we'd rather get the Saga in play, so... If we draw an untap source, then we can do it anyways. We can also make some tokens to try to start attacking our opponent down. I don't know if that's going to be relevant, but... It's definitely something to think about. I mean, we just need to try to Amulet combo our opponent as fast as possible, which is one of the reasons why I think Urza Saga should be pretty good in this matchup in general. It's very much a turn 3 card, though. Our opponent just combos off on turn 3, as we saw last game, so maybe not fast enough, but we'll see. We can Vesuva copying the Saga as well. I don't know if that's going to be fast enough. We could instead just play the Valakut. Nah, I think we probably want a Vesuva copying the Saga. I have a feeling that the second Amulet could be quite relevant. We'll pass it back here. My opponent plays a Witchclaw Talisman. Interesting. Well, we're definitely going to Beast Within that one. And we can let this one go through. This one we want to tap the mana and then sack it. We'll get Amulet, I'm pretty sure. I think that makes sense. And because we have an Amulet, we can play a Valakut here. We can probably Grazer in another Valakut, but then that would leave us with not enough green to actually do this. And we want to get this Talisman out of play, so... If we top deck a bounce land, then we just have Titan this upcoming turn and can just kill them with a second Amulet coming in. So, bounce land is a lethal draw. If we don't draw the bounce land, we can instead choose to find Expedition Map. We'll have 3, 2 to activate the map down to 1. We'll be able to play bounce land up to 3, Grazer up to 4 mana. So, there's not a whole lot we can do this upcoming turn unless we find exactly bounce land, but... I mean, we play one extra Sanctuary in the list because of Urza Saga and the fact that we need bounce lands more consistently. So it's definitely possible for us to find the bounce land that we're looking for. Our opponent could have a Twiddle effect to tap our Titan, which is something to be thinking about. All right, bounce land. It's not a bounce land. We're definitely floating the mana here. Sadly, I think that we have no choice, really, but to just get the map. If we map here, sacrifice it, get a bounce land, and explore... We play Valakut, explore. I don't think that... I mean, the Explorer's not going to do much unless we top deck another land. We will be able to cast Titan a turn from now, assuming we're not just dead. We could get a second Amulet and explore, hoping to find exactly a bounce land off the top. We'd still die to them having a Twiddle effect, but at least that would be one less card for them to combo with, assuming we hit the bounce land in the first place. I don't know, it's just a really bad situation overall. Exploring into a bounce land lets us cast Titan this turn, though. Rough spot. I think trying to go for the Titan this turn is going to be our only real option. I don't know, though. Alright, we're going for the Titan this turn. It's the only plan that we have. Bounce land. Bounce land. Come on. It's not a bounce land. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're playing out the Valakut, but now we're in a lot of trouble. And we still need to find a bounce land. Maybe getting the map would have been better, but the likelihood is our opponent's just going to combo us this turn, so... I think maybe this was our best hope. We'll see. Just yield through this turn, see if they play the field and start just comboing off. They float the mana. Here comes a Lotus Field for sure. There we go. So, probably was the right choice to try to go for the Titan at least. There's a Dream's Grip effect, the tap or untap. So, assuming they didn't draw that, playing a Titan last turn might still have not let us win the game, but we're probably dead. Again, I'll let our opponent do it this time. From what I understand, Twiddlestorm is not a good matchup for us, so... Well, I do think I'll edit this so it's not quite as long for you guys as it will be for me. And, yeah. Ooh, our opponent's killing us with Aria of Flame this time. That's interesting. So they're going to cast a bunch of instants and sorceries and deal a bunch of damage to us with Aria, and we're just going to be dead that way. So now that I've seen our opponent's win con, I feel pretty confident in conceding. We'll scoop it up, save ourselves some life EV, and just know when we've been bested. And yeah, so let's talk about the deck real quick. So one of the initial changes that I made from Dom Harvey's list was trimming the third Azusa for the second Explorer instead. And after having played with the list, and especially learning that you can float with Saga in your main phase before you sacrifice it, which makes a turn 3 Azusa just be able to win on the spot if you search for an amulet with your Saga and have a bounce land, then that makes Azusa a lot more appealing to me, which is not something that I recognized was possible before. So, despite the fact that I know some recently placing lists in, for example, a Modern Challenge, let me see if I can pull it up for you. Alright guys, here we are with the Modern Challenge from June the 6th, which was, it's published today. I don't remember exactly what date this challenge was on, but this is the most recent challenge. In this challenge, we'll see this third place list here by Bedell being a Urza Saga amulet list, if I can get the thing to scroll correctly. Of course, the 5 other down here are the cards from Modern Horizons 2 that the current deck list formatting thing can't handle, but this is 4 Urza Saga and 1 Yavimaya. We see, again, the 4 Sanctuaries, 4 Growth Chambers, and the 1 Boros Garrison, and 1 Gruul Turf. So they do have the extra bounce land like we're playing. Anyways, we'll see in this list 2 Azusas and 2 Explorers, which is interesting. As I was just mentioning that I would potentially trim the Explorer that I added for a third copy of Azusa. Clearly this user arrived on something slightly different, but now that I have realized, like I said, that you can float the mana with your Saga before you sacrifice it, and can still play an Azusa on your turn 3, that makes me much more interested in Azusa. But regardless, if you want to see a list that has recently done well with Saga, then you need to look no further than this list. Here we see the Ghost Quarter and the Bog and the sideboard, just like in the list we were just playing. We see Foundation Breaker in the sideboard. Again, the deck list formatting can't handle this card yet because it's too new, apparently. But there's one other card here that I want to mention, which is Relic of Progenitus, which is a 1-mana artifact that lets us tap to make a player exile a card from their graveyard, and then pay 1 and exile it to exile all cards from all graveyards and draw a card. So, if I jump back here to the deck list, instead of that Relic of Progenitus effect, I am playing 1 Grafdigger's Cage, and I recently asked Fran, or FPaulusZMTG, if you go follow him over there on Twitch, or on his Twitter. He's a very good Titan player, particularly specializing in Amulet and other Reclaimer builds, and he mentioned that Grafdigger's Cage is not at its best right now, mainly because Grafdigger's Cage does not handle Living End. Obviously, as we kind of noticed earlier, we were playing against the Velomachus deck, where Grafdigger's Cage doesn't stop the polymorph there either. And there are many things that Cage misses, but in this same challenge that I was just showing you, there are a total of 5 Living End decks that made the placing in this challenge. Many decks utilizing Shardless Agent, of course, which was recently printed into Modern. Here we see the Crashing Footfalls version, but later on there are several copies of this Living End strategy with all the creatures they cycle, and Living End, of course, is the card they're cascading into. And Living End has gotten a significant boost in the fact that they now have Shardless Agent as a way to cast Living End that is on color and pitchable to Force of Negation, for example, things along those lines. And Living End has become a lot more popular recently, and Grafdigger's Cage does not deal with Living End. However, Relic of Progenitus is still useful against Living End and cycles itself against control opponents. So I do think trimming the cage for one relic is a good choice moving forward. As for the Beast Withins, I'm not sure how relevant it is to hold on to these. I think that Beast Within is good against Ashiok, but we didn't actually see very many Ashioks. Of course, if decks like Living End and Amulet are very popular, then we could see Ashiok come back a little bit, but I don't know, maybe we'll see if Ashiok continues to be present in the meta or not, and then decide on the Beast Withins accordingly. Otherwise, I feel like this list is relatively solid, and I even like the one Expedition map. I was testing this initially and then didn't really like it, but I didn't really fully understand the way that Saga works. And then I stopped including it, and then I saw other people playing it, and I tried it out, and I do think that it's worth the inclusion, so yeah. The only other thing that I would mention is I would feel more comfortable with a second copy of Yavimaya, but I don't know what it is that I would cut for that. I don't think that there is a cut that can realistically be made, sadly, so... But I'm only playing Yavimaya because it feels necessary, and not because it's what I prefer. Admittedly, I do think that this Turn Temper Symbiosis is not the most necessary, so I think I'll try a list like this just moving forward, because Yavimaya has been very good in my recent experience, and Turn Temper is usually not super relevant, so we'll just see how it goes. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me for this match, and if you are wondering if Urza Saga is the best list for Amulet, well, I'll tell you that I'm pretty sure that it is, and Urza Saga is not going anywhere for the time being, so hopefully you've already gotten your copies. I know that they're sold out in paper on places like tcgplayer.com and things like that. And the price on Magic Online has also gone up substantially from when I bought my copies, so hopefully you got the copies that you needed. If you didn't, I don't think that regular Amulet lists playing Zero Saga are particularly much worse than this list. I think this list is a little more consistent, but honestly, Amulet was doing just fine before Urza Saga, and if you want to play a list without Saga, then I say that you should go ahead and do that. Do whatever makes you happy, and I think that Amulet without Saga will still be competitive nonetheless. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Thank you guys for joining me for this league, and I'll see you guys next week. Let me know what you want to see. I could even just do another league with Saga Amulet, if that's something that you guys are interested in. And yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it off. This is Red Face Menace, signing off.